Hello everyone, good evening. Sharing my screen. Let's log into OIC instance, guys. So we'll go back to the file transfer service that we created yesterday, and we need to talk about the scheduling options first. So let's use G63. So we've created this integration, and this is a scheduled orchestration, right? And we tested it yesterday by manually running it, right? We did an ad hoc run. Okay, so yes, after you build a scheduled orchestration, if you want to make sure that it works as expected, you can do the unit testing by running it standalone. So you can do an ad hoc run. Instead of scheduling it, you can do an ad hoc run and test it to see if it works as expected. And once it is working as expected, what is it that you would do? You would ask the client what's the schedule should be for this particular integration. Okay, how frequently should the service run? What is the scheduling requirement? And based on the scheduling requirement that you receive from a client, you would go ahead and add a schedule for it. Okay, and when you add a schedule, remember you've got two scheduling options. We have two scheduling options, simple and iCalendar. So if the scheduling requirement is simple, say for example, if you want the service to run only once on a specific date at a specific time, then you can use this option. Say for example, if I want the integration to run tomorrow around the same time, around 6:30. What is it that I'm going to do is I would go ahead and say frequency equal to only once, and you set up a date and a time here. And let's say client says we need to run this particular service every 10 minutes. Okay, client says service should run every 10 minutes. So you click on the drop down and you say hours and minutes, and you would put in 10 minutes here. And if client says a service should run every 1 hour or every hour, you're going to increase the number of hours to 1. If it has to run every 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours, common sense, you just have to put in appropriate number there. So if you want, or if client wants the service to run based on hours or minutes, you select this option and you mention appropriate values. So if the integration needs to run every hour, you say 1, and that's it. You go ahead and save it. And if the integration needs to run every day, every week, or every month, you can select appropriate options and you can enter the values there. You can select appropriate options like days, weeks, or months, and you select an appropriate number there. And also, doesn't matter what frequency you select from these options. For every frequency that you select, you need to mention a effective start date and an end date. Okay, for the schedule. So if I say 1 hour, okay, so that's fine. The service is going to get it's going to run every 1 hour. Okay, but how long should that happen? Is it going to run every 1 hour until tomorrow, until day after, or till from what date till what date the service needs to run every hour would be dependent on the effective dates that you mentioned here. And what would be the effective start date, guys? Effective start date would be when schedule starts. So whenever I start the schedule, from that point onwards, every 1 hour the integration would run. And if I say until, this is an end date, right? So the default value for end date would be never or repeat indefinitely. What does this mean, guys? What exactly does this mean? This means it's open-ended. So forever it is going to run every 1 hour, whether it is 30th December or 30th January, or every single day, every single hour the integration is going to run, and it goes on forever. And one request, guys, when you start or after you build your integration, when you test your integrations, request you to put in an end date here, guys. Okay, please put an end date here. If not today's date, at least put tomorrow's date, so that what would happen? At least after tomorrow, your integration will stop running every 1 hour or every 10 minutes, whatever is the schedule that you're going to define. Okay, otherwise, imagine 10 of you scheduling your services to run every 10 minutes and you leave the end date as forever. It would unnecessarily create the instances an OIC instance. Okay, just put in an end date. And also, now how exactly the other options work, guys? So to make it easy for you to understand this simple and calendar expressions, what I did is I've given a couple of links in the PPT, guys. So if you go to file transfer service, you go to the scheduling requirements and go to this particular link, guys. It's quite handy. So this blog explains the scheduling options. So these are all the frequencies that are available. These are all the frequencies that are available. Now, whenever I schedule an integration, I can schedule it to run only once, hours and minutes, days, weeks, and months. So those 5 options are what you see here. And what is important for you to notice, these options that you see can be used together as well, guys. These options can be used together as well. So that is exactly what we're going to see here. Okay, in option 6, 7, and 8, we're going to see how to make use of. First, we'll see how 5 options work, and then we'll see how to make use of combination of these options. And then we will also understand how to write the calendar expressions, which is a complex scheduling for complex scheduling requirements. So let's go through the options. Let's say I want the integration to run only once on a specific date at a specific time. What do I need to do, guys? I just have to select only once. And I need to mention the date and the time. Okay, plain and simple, no confusion. And if I want the integration to run based on hours and minutes. Okay, so for example, if I want the integration to run every 1 hour or after every 1 hour, 5 minutes, I want the integration to run. Okay, after every 65 minutes, I want the integration to run. Every 1 hour, 5 minutes. What is it that I'm going to do? I would say hours and minutes, and I would mention 5 here. 1 hour, 5 minutes. So every 65 minutes, integration is going to run. And if I want integration to run every 10th day, what do I need to do, guys? You guys need to tell me. Every 10th day, I want integration to run. So I select days here, and I need to put in 10. Is this fine, guys? So integration would run every 10 days. And if I want the integration to run, say, every 3rd week, how do I do it, guys? I say weeks here, and I say 3. Plain and simple. Every 3 weeks, integration is going to run. And let's say I want integration to run every 5 months. Okay, plain and simple. I would select months, and I'm going to say 5 months. Okay, so this is plain, simple, and straightforward. Now let's try to complicate a little bit. So let's say we need to schedule an integration to run. This is a requirement, guys. Let's try to achieve it. What does it say, guys? First of all, what is the requirement? Integration should run every weekday. Okay, first of all, it needs to run on weekday, not weekends. And that too, not every week, on 2nd and 4th week. Will we be able to achieve such requirements using simple options as well, guys? No. Shall we give it a try? Let's try and see if it works or not. Okay, first of all, let's see if we can schedule the integration to run on weekdays or not. We'll break it down into parts and see one by one. First of all, I want integration to run on weekdays. Okay, let's see. I would say days. Okay, so I say days here. I click on days here. And I say days of every week. Can I pick a weekdays now, guys?
Yes.
Okay, I can pick weekdays here, and I can pick or I can pick weekends. And obvious question, if you might ask is, Prasad, I'm working in Gulf, so Friday and Saturday or weekend for us. Okay, absolutely fine, guys. That's okay. In such case, you don't use these options. You pick these two options, or you pick options from Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Sunday, depending on the country that you are in. Otherwise, if you are in a country where Monday to Friday is a weekend, you can select these options. Okay, so the first part is taken care of. Yes or no, guys? So if I schedule it this way, Monday to Friday, it would run. But there is also a second part to it, right? What does it say, guys? It should not happen every week. It should run only on the second and fourth weekends. How do we control it? Now I go ahead and add months here or weeks here. And if I say every week, what would happen if I just leave it as every 1 week? Monday to Friday, it was going to run every week. Okay. Instead of every week, I'm going to say week and say week of every month. And what is it that I'm going to select here?
Second and fourth.
Absolutely. Second and fourth. Okay, so this is how you're going to set it up as. Now let's try to look at a different scenario now. Okay, so this is exactly what you're going to do. Okay, so this is how you're going to set it up as. Now let's complicate it a bit further. Let's say we want to run the integration on 8th, 16th, and 23rd of every month. 8th, 16th, and 23rd of every month. You guys need to help me, guys. Help me here. What should I do first?
Select months.
Select days, right? A specific days it is saying. So I'll say days here. I'll say days here. And instead of days of week, I'm going to say days of month so that it's going to show me all the months. And what dates do I need to pick, guys? 8,
16th,
16th, and 23rd. And 23rd. Okay. Now there must be at least one of you who might be ready to ask this question. Prasad, I want to run the integration on last day of every month, not 8th, 16th, and 23rd. Is last day of every month same, guys? Or does it keep changing with the month? Right? So I cannot select 30th, or I cannot select 31st, or I cannot select 28 or 29. It keeps changing. So Oracle also would have certainly thought of that requirement, and that's why they have given this particular option for last day of every month. And if I select this way, what would happen? In that month, if it is a last day, the integration is going to run. Okay. Now 8,
16, 23.
16, and 23. Okay, so I picked up 3 days. And it needs to run every month. So this is how I'm going to pick that up as 8, 16, and 23rd. Let's take another requirement. So it says integration should run on February, June, and March. Okay, 3 specific months, guys. So what do I have to do? I say months, and I click on months of every year. I need to pick those months: February, June,
October.
Now, what exactly do we need to do? So that would take care of it. What if you want to say run the integration? Yeah, these are these. So what you need to understand is, yes, these options work standalone, and you can also use them together to achieve complex requirements as well. And these simple options, meaning either using these options are standalone, or a combination of them, would help you to achieve 90% of the requirements. But sometimes you will get a requirement which is quite complex, and you might not be able to achieve it using a simple scheduling options. And that's exactly where iCalendar expression would come in, guys. iCalendar expression, please note, guys, this is not something that Oracle or OIC owns. Again, it is an industry standard way of scheduling things. So I think most of you are playing the role of a team leader or a manager, right? So when you set up a team meeting and you send it out, what would so the calendar invite is going to go out as an iCalendar file. Not sure how many of you have noticed it, right? So basically, iCalendar is a industry standard way of scheduling things. It's just that OIC or the scheduler within OIC, to be precise, supports iCalendar expressions. Now, there are 100,000 varieties in which you can write iCalendar expressions. There are plenty of options available. You can write iCalendar expressions to achieve pretty much any complex scheduling requirement that you have. Now, let's take a scenario and understand how it works. Say, for example, I need to schedule the integration. Let's say I need to schedule the integration to run. Let's say this is a requirement that we have, guys. Integration needs to run on 5th, 15th, and 23rd. So if it is just, if the integration needs to run only once on these 3 days, I can make use of a simple options itself, right? So what I could have done, I could have said days and I could have selected specific days, right? I could have said 5th, 15th, and 23rd. But on these days also, I want integration to run at a specific time and an hour, right? Not just once. I want it to run at a specific time and then at a specific hour and a specific minute. So the integration needs to run at 5:15 a.m., 10:15 a.m., 3:15 p.m., and 8:15 p.m. So the integration needs to run 4 times on 3 days every month. It needs to run on 5th, 15th, and 23rd. And on these days, it needs to run at 5:15 a.m., 10:15 a.m., 3:15 p.m., and 8:15 p.m. Okay. So how do we do it, guys? We go ahead and select, instead of days here, I'm going to say iCalendar expression. And we need to write iCalendar expressions like this. So what's the frequency that we need, guys? So every month it needs to run on these specific days. So I'm going to say frequency equal to monthly. And what else we can use as a frequency? I can use daily. I can use weekly. I can use monthly. So there are almost like 10 or 12 options that you can use for a frequency. It can be minutely, hourly, bi-weekly, weekly, quarterly, half-yearly, yearly, right? So depending on the requirement, you mention it. And after every iCalendar expression, you need to put a semicolon, guys. And I want the integration to run on specific days in a month. I want it to run on 5th, 15th, and 23rd. And I also want the integration to run at a specific hour. I want the integration to run at a specific hour. So I want it to run at 5, 10 a.m., 3 p.m., and 8 p.m. And at what minute we want the integration to run? We say by minute 15. So if we use the schedule, then what would happen is every month the integration is going to run on 5th, 15th, and 23rd. And on these days, the integration is going to run at 5:15, 10:15, 3:15, and 8:15. Remember, guys, so you need to mention it as mention it in a 24-hour clock. And even the last expression should be followed by a semicolon, guys. You can validate expression. Now that is exactly what you would be plugging in. So this is how you can write iCalendar expressions to achieve complex scheduling requirements. Now I've also given a link. I've also given a link in a PPT to help you understand few more iCalendar expressions. understand few more iCalendar expressions. So we will, so I've given one more link here. So you can make use of this link. Yeah, you can use it. In this link, you're able to see the various ways in which you can write iCalendar expressions. Say, for example, what exactly can you use as frequency? These are all the options that I can use as frequency. Secondly, minutely, hourly, daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, and various other options that you can use when you write iCalendar expressions. Various other options that you have when you write iCalendar expressions are visible here. So if you want integration to run on specific weekdays, you can mention it explicitly. If you want to add, meaning you want to run it on all the days, minus or plus few more days as exceptions, you can do that. So here you would be able to see various options that you could use when you write the iCalendar expressions. And if you scroll down, you would also be able to see the a few do's and don'ts as well. Remember, guys, don't try to learn iCalendar expressions or don't try to by heart them. So you can write them in 100,000 ways. So depending on the requirement, you first need to evaluate and see if you can achieve it with simple. If not, then you search for relevant iCalendar expression. iCalendar is a very popular way of scheduling things, guys. You're not the first person doing it. There are plenty of blogs which will tell you what is the exact syntax you need to use. And there was also, so if it is a complex scheduling requirement that you cannot achieve with simple, then you need iCalendar expression. There's also one more scenario where you need iCalendar expression, guys. And what is that scenario, guys? If you want the integration to run with a time gap of, if I want the integration to run with a time gap of less than 10 minutes, if I want integration to run with a time gap of less than 10 minutes, how do you do it, guys? So say, for example, I want integration to run every 5 minutes. So I'm going to select 5 here. I'm going to select 5 here. But what does the comment says here, guys? What does the comment say? It says I can enter anything between 0 and 59, right? So ideally, I should be able to use 5 as well, right? 5 is between 0 and 59. Let me save it, guys. What's the error that we are getting? Can someone read this? What does it say?
Optimal performance would not allow less than 10 minutes.
Yeah. So first of all, schedule could not be saved. That's fine. Why was it not saved? Because for optimal performance, Oracle integration would not allow recurrence less than 10 minutes. Okay, so what does it mean, guys? It means that if I have to put it in simple terms, the number that you enter here should be either 10 or higher. So there has to be at least a time gap of 10 minutes between two scheduled integration runs, guys. Why did Oracle put in that restriction, guys? Because from an optimal performance standpoint, what Oracle thought is it makes sense to have at least a time gap of 10 minutes between the runs. And there should not be a problem with 9 out of 10 cases. Or even in every client, 9 out of 10 use cases, this is not a problem. But very rarely, you might have a requirement to trigger a service with a time gap of less than 10 minutes, guys. Whatever could be the business reason. Okay, so you definitely have to run the integration every 5 minutes. Sorry, boss, we cannot wait. In such cases, what we can do, guys, this is not letting me do it, right? From a simple options, I cannot schedule a service to run with a time gap of less than 10 minutes. So in such cases also, iCalendar expression would come handy. And what's iCalendar expression that I'm going to write in there, guys? I would say frequency equal to minutely and interval equal to 5. Okay, frequency equal to minutely, interval equal to 5, which means if I save the integration now, the integration is going to run every 5 minutes. Okay, so this is a second scenario where we use iCalendar expressions. If the requirement is complex and cannot be achieved with simple options, we use iCalendar. And if you have to schedule the service with and to run with a time gap of less than 10 minutes, then also we use iCalendar expression. I'll go back into simple. I would schedule the integration to run every 10 minutes. And I'm going to say, yeah, I'll save the schedule and I'll go ahead and start it as well. So you see, you have an option to start the schedule, edit it, and you can change the other options as well. Let me go ahead and start it. And when we start the schedule, it's going to ask us as what user you want to schedule it. So we can schedule it with the user with which you have logged in, or you can also change it as well if you want. You can also change it if you want. Okay, so I've logged in as user one, and still I can schedule the service as approver one. Where exactly would this come handy, guys? Especially when you do the deployment in production, guys, what would happen? So for example, my client is going live. So they're going to create a user for me in production OIC instance. I would log in as Prasad. I would deploy the integrations and I would add a schedule for them. Yes or no, guys? And in the dropdown, by default, I'll see Prasad here. If I go ahead and schedule the services with my individual login in OIC instance, in production OIC instance, what's the problem, guys? 2 weeks post go live, Prasad would be relieved from the project and he has to work in a different consulting assignment, different project. Yes or no? Quite possible. And in which case, if you are relieved from a project, would your user be end dated or not, guys? In the instances, usually it would be, right? And that would impact the schedule integrations. So for that reason, what we do is, yes, when we deploy the integrations, we do it with our individual logins. But when we schedule it, we're not going to do it with our individual logins. Instead, we use a generic user there. So we use something called as, we create a generic user called ERP scheduler user, and we use that user to schedule the integrations. Okay, and I can go ahead and confirm it. And the moment I try to schedule it, how many parameters were there, guys, for this service? 4 parameters. What are the default values? These are the ones that you see here. And when I run the service now, or when I schedule it, it's going to get scheduled with these parameters and with these default values. So I can start the schedule and let it go on. So tomorrow or 1 month down the line, WMS system changed the naming convention. So it says, Prasad, I'm going to give you not a CSV file, but I'm going to give you a text file. So I'm going to pause the schedule at that point, and I would just come in here and say item star.txt. So in the new value, I'm going to just overwrite the value that I want to use. But we don't have to make any change in the service base. Remember, because we are receiving these input parameters and we are using these parameters within the service. Okay, so that's the benefit of using parameters to receive inputs instead of hard coding it. Let's go ahead and start the schedule. And when I start the schedule, what do we see, guys? You see that the first integration run is scheduled in 9 minutes, 59 seconds. Second one after 10 minutes after that. A third one in 30 minutes, fourth one in 40 minutes, and so on. And I have an option to pause or stop the integration and so on. And we can also do an ad hoc run from here, guys. You can submit an ad hoc run. Remember, we are seeing all these options in a scheduler page. You can also see all these options from a monitoring section also, guys. To make it easy for you, the same information would be visible from multiple screens just to make your life easy. So if I go into observability integrations, I could see that for this integration, first of all, you see there is a schedule. I can view the schedule, I can pause it, stop it, I can do an ad hoc run. And if I click on view future runs here or here, you would be able to see what are the runs scheduled. Okay, so if I say run scheduled by R, what are the runs scheduled by R showing here, guys? So let's say on Saturday. Okay, so why are we not seeing our integration here? Since I think since the first integration instance is not created, it's not showing up here, guys. But ideally, what is it that you would see? You would be able to see all the scheduled orchestrations here. So you see this particular integration is scheduled to run every 1 hour. Okay, so let me go ahead and see this. How frequently it is scheduled. It is scheduled to run every 10 minutes. And I can go ahead and stop the schedule. Somebody would have scheduled it and forgotten about it. We can go into integrations as well. And you could see that there's one request received, and that request would be in a queued state. And this integration instance is going to kick off the instances, guys, going forward. This instance is going to kick off quite a few other instances. Every 10 minutes, it's going to create a new instance. Okay, so if you have time and patience, wait for 7 more minutes and the integration is going to run again. Otherwise, what else we can do, guys? We can also go ahead and do one ad hoc run from here. We can run it again from here. So this is not the one that I'm interested in. Let me go ahead and stop the schedule for UG60. UG63 is what we are interested in. And I can go ahead and do an ad hoc run for 63. If required, I can go ahead and do an ad hoc run like this. Otherwise, what would happen? Every 1 hour, or sorry, every 10 minutes, integration is going to run, and there would be a new request generated here. So any doubt, guys, in the scheduling requirements? Any doubts from anyone?
Prashant, if you schedule second time, like already one schedule is there, if somebody again review want to reschedule, we do that, or it is not?
Yeah, we can. No, we have to edit the existing schedule, or we have to stop the first one. You cannot define 2 schedules for a service if that is what you're asking for. We cannot have 2 schedules. It has to be 1. Yeah.
Okay.
If the schedule already exists, you would have to edit it. Any questions, guys, from anyone? Okay. Now let's get started with the next one, guys. Remember, guys, this is the next half an hour. I'm going to set the context for the next 4 integrations that we're going to build, guys. And I want all of you to pay 200% attention here, guys. For the next half an hour, I'm going to set the context for the next 4 integrations that we're going to build. So if you take a Fusion Cloud application, let me log in. When I log into a Fusion Cloud application, so let's say a client has implemented Fusion Cloud. And let's say your client is managing financial modules in this particular application. Now tell me one thing, guys, if your client is going live with Fusion Cloud from today, what does it mean, guys? From 29th of December, they're going to use Fusion Cloud application. What it basically means is all the ERP operations or the finance operations that they used to do in their current system or in their old ERP system, it's just that all those ERP operations would be done by Fusion Cloud application going forward. It's just that those ERP related operations would not be performed in a legacy system or their current system anymore. It would be done in Fusion Cloud application. But please note that client is not going to stop using every other system that they have in their IT landscape. Say, for example, if you're doing this implementation for a banking client, let's say I'm doing it for, say, HSBC. So if HSBC implements Fusion Cloud application, do you think HSBC is going to do the core banking transactions in Fusion Cloud, guys? Or are they going to do it in core banking system, even post go live? So even post go live, yeah, they would, the HSBC bank would have their core banking system. And that's exactly where the journals get created. Yes, from that core banking system, until yesterday, the journals would be loaded to old ERP system. And from today, the journals have to be loaded into Fusion Cloud. So to keep it simple, whenever a client implements Fusion Cloud, don't think that client would stop using every other system that they have and do everything in Fusion Cloud. It's not that way. A client would still have plenty of other systems. They might have a core banking system where journals get created. They might also have a billing system where AR invoices get generated. If you're probably doing it for say a telecom operator or a telecom chain like a British Telecom. So they have all the point of sales, right? So their AR invoices get generated and that has to be loaded into cloud. So can we ask the British Telecom users to start creating AR invoices here, guys? At the point of sales? Absolutely not possible. So a key thing that you need to notice, when a client implements Fusion Cloud, there would be a lot of systems that our clients would have before Fusion Cloud and after Fusion Cloud. Okay, and it is our responsibility as an integration specialist to load the data from those other systems into Fusion Cloud. So we are going to build 4 inbound integrations. Okay, meaning you're getting data from other systems and we need to load them into cloud. That is what we call as inbound. So we will build 4 inbound integrations, and that's exactly what we're going to discuss now, the next 4 integrations. And later on in the course, we would also talk about how to extract the data from Fusion Cloud application and send it to the downstream systems. Now you might say, Prasad, why should I send the data? Let's take a couple of scenarios, guys. Say, for example, let's say your client has implemented HCM modules here, core HR and absence management, but they didn't implement payroll. Your client is still relying on ADP to run a payroll. Now tell me one thing, guys, when somebody hires a new employee, so I logged in as FinIMPL user, guys, that's why I don't see an option to hire an employee. But whenever employee is hired or promoted or terminated, should that information be passed on to ADP or not, guys? So that payroll would be run accurately?
Yes.
So you would have plenty of such scenarios like that, wherein there would be a requirement to extract the data from Fusion Cloud and send it to the downstream systems. So that is what we call as outbound integrations, and we'll be focusing on those outbound integrations later on in the course. Okay, we're going to do 4 inbound, 4 outbound, and plenty of other integrations in between. Now, when we do the inbound integrations, 20 minutes, Murli, I will take the question at the end, please. Now, when we build the inbound integrations, first of all, what does inbound means, guys? Inbound means you're going to get the data from another system. It could be a journals from core banking system, invoices from billing system. It could be exchange rates coming in from an external vendor like Bloomberg. You need to load them into Fusion Cloud. Okay, how do we do it? So when you build inbound integrations in OIC, there are 2 possible approaches you could follow, guys. 2 possible approaches you could follow. You can do a file-based approach, or you can do a web service-based approach. Okay, when you build the integration, within the integration, what approach are you going to follow? What are the possible approaches that you can follow? 2 approaches, file or web service-based. Now, on what basis? First of all, who needs to make this decision, guys? Who will make this decision? It is we as integration specialists who needs to make this decision to decide whether to use web service-based approach or a file-based approach. Now the question is, Prasad, how would I come to a conclusion? On what basis am I going to decide this? So you need to ask client these questions, guys. You need to ask 5 questions to the client. And depending on the responses that you get from a client for these 5 questions, you need to decide whether you want to use a file or a web service-based approach. Okay, so what's the volume that you need to deal with? Can a source system invoke the web service, yes or no? Okay, so if the answer is no for this, that means even if I build an app-driven orchestration, I activate it, there would be a URL generated. I can pass it on to the source system team, but the team says, sorry, Prasad, I cannot do anything with it. Okay, source system doesn't have a capability to invoke a web service. And the third thing is, in what formats can a source system provide the data? Is it going to be file or XML or JSON? So what formats are supported? And how frequently do we need to invoke the service? How frequently the service needs to be invoked? And also we need to understand how soon the data should be reflected in the target system. How soon the data should be reflected in target system. So these are the 5 questions that we need to ask the client, and based on the responses, we need to decide which approach to follow. And 2 popular misconceptions, guys. 2 popular misconceptions. And I see them even with the integration specialists who have few years of experience. So you might tend to believe that as soon as the data is created in source system, it should be reflected in target system immediately. Yes, the answer might be yes in most scenarios, guys. Yes, as soon as the data is created in source, it has to be loaded into target. But it is not always ASAP, guys. In few scenarios, having a time gap between the data getting created in source and data showing up in target system, even if there is a time gap, client is absolutely fine with it, guys, because it all boils down to what exactly clients want to do within this target system. What exactly clients want to do within this target system. Okay. Now let's take an example and try to understand. And what is the second misconception, guys? The second popular misconception is the moment I tell the business object name. So, for example, I say the integration team member that we need to import journals. So I see sometimes people saying this. Okay, sir, we need to import journals. Journals means many lines are possible. So we have to use file-based approach. Well, it is absolute rubbish, guys. So you cannot decide on which approach to follow in your integration just on the basis of the business object. Okay, it's rubbish. Instead, you need to ask client these questions, and based on the responses that you get to the questions, you need to decide which approach to follow. Okay, let's take a scenario. Let's say one of you, let's say Murli is working for a banking client. Okay, let's say he's doing an implementation for a Gulf bank. And his client has a data source. They have a core banking system. And in this core banking system, journals are going to get created all through the day. And those journals have to be loaded into cloud application. So yes, this was a requirement that Murli has got from his client. Now, when he gets this requirement, can Murli go ahead and decide on what approach to follow, guys, just on the basis of this one-liner? No, he has to get into a call with the client, ask them these 5 questions, and based on the responses, he needs to decide. So what if client says, Murli, we don't need a real-time integration. After every couple of hours or after every 6 months or after close of business, I'm going to give you one single file. I'm going to extract all the journals created in that particular day or on that particular day. And I'm going to prepare a single file and I'll give it to you. So I want you to load that file into GL Cloud application. Okay, so the requirement is, yes, we don't need a real-time integration. After close of business, core banking system is going to give you one single file with the journals extracted or created on that particular day, and we need to load it into cloud. So what's the volume we need to deal with, guys? Roughly 50,000 lines. Can a source system invoke a web service, yes or no? So it's a Gulf bank, and the system, core banking system that they have is an old one, and it doesn't have a capability to invoke a web service. In what format can source system provide data? It can provide it in the form of files. How frequently the service needs to be scheduled? You can schedule it to run daily, once in a day if it is a single file after close of business, or it can be every hour, or it can be every hour, depending on the frequency with which the files get generated here. And how soon the data should be reflected in target system, guys? No need of ASAP. So we don't need the data to be reflected in target system ASAP. Okay, we don't need the data to be reflected in target system ASAP. Now, because the client says, Prasad, we're not doing, or Murli, we're not doing any real-time reporting from GL Cloud. So even if you, so the journal is created in core banking system now. So if you load the journals into GL Cloud, by the time you pick up the journals from here and load them into GL Cloud, even if there is a bit of a time gap, that is absolutely fine, guys. That is absolutely fine. Okay, because they are not doing any real-time reporting from here. So in such cases, what is the best approach that we can use in this particular case, guys? Bulk data volume, You're going to get the data in the form of a file. So system cannot invoke a web service, and it has to run on a frequent basis. And there's no need to load the data in a target application ASAP. In such cases, we would build a scheduled orchestration in OIC. And within that scheduled orchestration, we are going to use a process called FPDI. I'll come to this FPDI process later on as well, guys. So this is basically a process that you need to use if you have to do a bulk data upload into finance or SCM modules. Since I'm talking about journals here, so I need to build a scheduled orchestration, and within that orchestration, I'm going to automate this FPDI process in the integration flow. Okay, so the core banking system is going to place a file in a specific location. From a scheduled orchestration, I'm going to pick up that file, do the required massaging, and then I'm going to load it into a Fusion Cloud application. Now, one important point here is, first of all, even before I talk about that important point, so when I say Fusion Cloud application, when we have discussions, right, or in the sessions, I might use a term called Fusion Cloud. So when I say Fusion Cloud application, what exactly I mean by this? It means the entire Fusion Cloud instance that we have. It means the entire Fusion Cloud instance that we have, the entire instance. And depending on the requirements, clients can pick and choose which modules they want to implement in Fusion Cloud. Some clients implement only financials, guys. Some clients implement finance plus HCM. Some clients implement finance plus HCM plus SCM. Where do they do it from, guys? You don't need to know it, but let me just show you. So they go in here, setup and maintenance. And you click on actions, click on go to offerings. And here you will be able to see various offerings that Oracle provides. You have financials offering, you have HCM related offerings, you have SCM related offerings. So depending on the requirement that the client have, clients would pick and choose which modules they want to implement, which offerings they want to implement, and which modules within them they want to implement. Okay. Now, ERP cloud. So sometimes I might use a word called ERP cloud. It's not me who is using it, guys. Even all of the Oracle uses this terminology. So when we say, or when somebody says ERP cloud, they are referring to finance and SCM modules. So these two modules put together is referred to as ERP cloud, financials or SCM modules. Now, if you have to do a bulk data upload into Fusion Cloud, if you have to do a bulk data upload into finance or SCM related modules, meaning you want to load the journals or purchase orders, it can be a transactional data or master data as well. So if you have to do a bulk data upload, you need to make use of a file-based data import approach. Guys, FPDA is a process that you need to use. And this is a process that we're going to use to load the data in an automated manner into cloud. If it is not, say, journals, if let's say it is employees that I need to load into HCM cloud. First of all, HCM cloud, all HCM modules related to HCM, all HCM modules put under HCM cloud. Now, if I have to do any bulk data upload into HCM cloud, if I have to load the locations or departments or employees in bulk, I can make use of HCM data loader process for it. Now, tell me one thing, guys. When we build these, when we build these FPDA automation integrations, guys, when we build these FPDA automation integrations, please note that these integrations will come into picture only post go live, guys. Okay, so let's say when the implementation project starts, okay, so Murli is working in a banking project. Client is a Gulf client, and they're currently using EBS R12, or they might be using a PeopleSoft or any legacy system. And the client is implementing ERP or HCM cloud. Should somebody has to do the initial data migration, guys, or the conversion, somebody has to take care of it, right? So whatever data that they have, client have in the current system, should be loaded into cloud. Yes or no, guys?
Yes.
Yes.
And who is going to take care of this initial data migration or conversion activity, guys?
Implemented.
It's none of our business. There would be a Fusion Finance and HCM technical consultants. And these finance or HCM technical consultants would be using FPDI and HCM data loader process. They would be using FPDI and HDL process manually to do a bulk data upload of data into ERP and HCM cloud. Okay, so to keep it simple, the initial data migration would be taken care by a technical team. Finance and HCM tech consultants would be using these FPDI HCM data loader templates to do the bulk data upload into ERP or HCM cloud. And these consultants or the technical team or data migration team would be repeating this activity in how many instances, guys? Dev, SIT, UAT, and production. Are these the stages that we normally have in an implementation project, guys? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes.
And you have separate instances for each one of them. And in these instances, in those instances, the tech consultant would be doing the data migration. And let's say client has gone live today. Let's say client has gone live today, 29th of November. So until 28th, client would be performing ERP related operations in EBS R12. So from today, client would be using ERP cloud to perform those operations. Okay. So let's say Murli is from integration team, and let's pick so let's say Abhinav is from a data migration team. Okay. So Abhinav and his team would be doing the initial data migration or conversion process in each stage of the project, and it is done. Post go live, so when a client implements ERP cloud, does it mean that they stop using every other system that they have, guys? The core banking system, billing systems, or custom applications? No, right? They would still be using other systems. They are there for a specific reason. So the journals would still get created in core banking system even post go live. AR invoices get generated in billing system. Bloomberg is going to give us exchange rates file. But these feeds or these files might be loaded into EBS R12 until yesterday. So few of you also played the role of a technical consultant, right, guys? So what exactly would you do if in EBS, if you get a journals file? You would create a staging table, SQL loader scripts, dump the data into staging tables, and you write 10,000 line PLSQL package to validate each and every row or field, and then load the data into EBS R12, right? But we need to automate this process. These files need to be uploaded to ERP cloud in an automated manner. So can we have a team member from Abhinav's team waking up at 2 o'clock to load a journals file, 3 o'clock to load AR invoices file, 4 o'clock to load exchange rates file, guys?
No.
We have lot many better things to do in life, right? So there should be a way to automate this file uploads. Okay, so if I have to put it in simple terms, automated file uploads is something that we definitely need. And we cannot do it the way you used to do in EBS, guys. We cannot create staging tables, SQL loader scripts, or we cannot write 10,000 line PLSQL. Just all that is gone. But how do you do those automations? And that's exactly where, yes, core banking system gives you journals file. It places it at 3 o'clock in SFTP server. We build scheduled orchestration in OIC, which runs at 3:30. We would have a half an hour buffer. And from the scheduled orchestration, I'm going to pick up the file from SFTP. I would do the required transformations here, and then I'm going to load it into cloud. So the FPDI or a HCM data loader automation services that we're going to build would come into picture post go live, guys. So I keep getting this question from students. They ask me, Prasad, I've built an FPDA automation service. Can I use it to do the initial data migration? Sorry, dear, that is not what it is meant for. There is a separate team which takes care of it. But if you want, you can also make use of it for initial data migration. But when you do the data migration or a conversions, initial data migration, there would be a lot of errors that you would run into. You would be taking corrective actions. You would be reprocessing records. A lot of stuff comes into picture here. So yes, we're going to build two integrations following file-based approach, guys. We would build a file-based automation, the PDA automation service, and we would also build HCM data loader automation services. So these are the two file-based automation services that we will build. Now let's talk about the web service-based approach. I'll just take 2 more minutes or 3 more minutes, and I'll take the questions afterwards, guys. So let's say Murli is done with his integration project, and his consulting company wants to leverage his banking project experience, and they have put him into HSBC Bank. Now other requirements, since it's again a bank, the model of working is slightly similar, right? Again, on the first day, Murli received an email, core banking system journals. You need to load it into GL Cloud. Now tell me one thing, guys, can Murli laugh at it and say, hey boss, I already know what we are supposed to do. We just have to do a file-based automation. Can you go ahead and just come to that conclusion, guys? Or should we treat every customer requirement as a separate one or a different one?
Obviously, he should answer all these 5 questions.
Ask all these 5 questions again. The same stuff has to be repeated, guys. So don't try to paint everything with the same brush. Even if it is the same source system, same business object, same target application, guys, the requirement could be completely different. Okay, so this time HSBC says, Murli, just build an integration in OIC for me, which is capable of importing journals, and share that URL with me. I want a real-time integration, guys. So as and when I have few journals, as and when I have few hundred or thousands of lines to import in GL Cloud, from a core banking system, I'm going to invoke your integration or a web service you build in OIC. And from the core banking system, we will pass the data in XML or JSON format. We will invoke it as and when we have journals to import. It could be every 10 minutes or even smaller limit. And how soon the data should be reflected in target system in GL Cloud ASAP, because HSBC might be doing some real-time reporting from here. Right? So in such cases, which approach we are going to use, guys? You have to deal with less data volume. Source system would invoke the web service, and source system can provide the data in XML or JSON format. And how frequently the service needs to be invoked, guys? It can be 10 minutes or even smaller limit. And how soon the data should be reflected in target system, guys? ASAP. In such cases, we can make use of web service-based approach in our integration space, meaning we can make use of standard SOAP services or REST APIs given by Oracle within OIC of Oracle. We would be invoking them from our integrations in OIC. So we'll build 2 integrations using web service-based approach, guys. We'll build a complex journal import SOAP service. This is going to be a pretty complex one, guys. So we're going to get started with its build from Monday. And it's going to take at least 3 to 4 hours for us to build. And with this service as an example, I'm going to teach you how to use or how most of the actions in OIC work. And I would also show you how to build another integration. Remember, this is going to be complex SOAP service. And I will also show you how to build a complex REST API as well. Okay, so 2 web service-based approach integrations, complex SOAP and REST APIs. And I would also show you how to build complex file-based automations as well, like FPDA and HDL. So these are the 4 integrations that we're going to build going forward. 4 inbound integrations, complex journal import SOAP service using web service-based approach, a complex REST API to import AP invoices, FPDA automation, and a HDL automation. And there is the other side of it as well, like building outbound integrations, 4 different varieties of them, and we'll be focusing on them at a later point. And in between the inbound and outbound, there are also a few more integrations as well. Yes, Murli, what's the question that you have? I'll come to you first. Sorry, I'm not able to hear you.
Partially got answer. I came to know. Yeah, sorry. Is it fine now?
That's better. Yeah. Please go on.
Hello. Yeah. So partially I got my answer. Normally from legacy systems, they opt for this Fusion Cloud to put their data from the legacy system to the cloud. So the second part of question, like normally after putting that data, as you mentioned from core systems, normally we have to integrate with the cloud environment where our role plays. But after putting that, that's the data, like who will be like using? Could you please any real time example?
I missed the last I missed the actual question. So I could
Okay.
see that you have understood the entire bit. So after the journals are loaded, AR invoices are loaded, and exchange rates are loaded, who is going to use the system, guys? It's going to be used by the HSBC finance team, and they're going to do all the transactions in here, the transactions, or they're going to do the real-time reporting part. So don't think that, so we're going to load the journals from our core banking system here, right? So do you think this is on this? These are the only going to be the journals in GL module? So they would be implementing subledger modules as well. There would be a lot of transactions that get created there. Those need to be accounted. So all the finance related operations would be performed by the client in a HSBC, sorry, in this Fusion Cloud application. So they go into a GL, they would be doing the GL transactions in their receivables, payables, general accounting. All the modules would be used to do the business activities. Okay. Any other questions, guys, from anyone? Okay. Thank you, guys. See you on Monday.